Hello and welcome to our thought for the day for Wednesday the 4th of January, the first week of a new year. I've really enjoyed the readings we've had from Isaiah during Lent and through Christmas, and today our reading is from the end of Isaiah chapter 61, and I'm reading from the New International Version. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn and provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord, for the display of his splendour. They will rebuild the ancient ruins and restore the places long devastated. They will renew the ruined cities that have been devastated for generations. Strangers will shepherd your flocks, foreigners will work your fields and vineyards, and you will be called priests of the Lord, and you will be named ministers of our God. You will feed on the wealth of nations, and in their riches you will boast. Instead of your shame, you will receive a double portion, and instead of disgrace, you will rejoice in your inheritance. And so you will inherit a double portion in your land, and everlasting joy will be yours. For I, the Lord, love justice. I hate robbery and wrongdoing. In my faithfulness I will reward my people and make an everlasting covenant with them. Their descendants will be known among the nations, and their offsprings among the people. All who see them will acknowledge that they are a people the Lord has blessed. I delight greatly in the Lord. My soul rejoices in my God, for he has clothed me with garments of salvation and arrayed me in a robe of his righteousness. As a bridegroom adorns his head like a priest, and as a bride adorns herself with her jewels. For as the soil makes the sprout come up and a garden causes seeds to grow, so the sovereign Lord will make the righteousness and praise spring up before all nations. Well, what a powerful passage. It's full of hope for the Israelites. Isaiah pictures them being delivered from exile, all debts being cancelled and all slaves freed, and all property returned to the original owners. But at that time, the Israelites had returned from exile in Babylon, but they were still a conquered and oppressed people. Isaiah was not foreseeing their current time, but a future time, a time when the Messiah comes. It's this passage Jesus quotes in Luke when he first preaches in Galilee, after he had been tempted by the devil in the wilderness. Let's read that short passage from Luke. The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour. And then he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of everyone in the synagogue were fastened on him. He began by saying to them, "Today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." So two things I've come to understand when studying this passage is firstly how bold Jesus is with his pronouncement that today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing. Jesus proclaims himself as the one who would bring this good news to pass. But Jesus stopped quoting from Isaiah mid-sentence, and this is the key second point I've learnt, that Jesus doesn't refer to the day of vengeance of our God. This is because this will all become true when Jesus returns again. So to pick up on Isaiah's prophecy, we are now in a time of God's favour. His time of wrath is still to come when Jesus returns. Now I'm sure for many of us who are suffering in some way right now, it doesn't always feel like we're in a time of God's favour. We suffer for many reasons, sometimes due to our own mistakes, when we really get what we deserve, but also all too often due to no fault of our own, maybe due to someone else's mistake or through no fault of anyone. Coping with suffering through no one's fault is hard to come to terms with. And I was really struggling with this when I was undergoing treatment for cancer. But when someone prayed with me and they made me realise that God suffers with us too at times like this, he doesn't want us to suffer. As it says in the passage, He loves justice and hates robbery and wrongdoing. At the end of this passage, I love the two images that were given. The first one of the Messiah adorned as the bridegroom, and us, God's people, as his bride. Now we too can put on new clothes this new year and clothe ourselves in the right relationship with God by putting our trust fully in him. And that final image of the seed sprouting in the garden. We can never make something grow. We can't turn on the genetic switch. The blessing of life and growth is miraculously within the seed, but we can provide the right environment for the seed to bud and grow and to be fruitful. So this year, let's put our hearts and minds in the right environments of faith, fellowship and obedience, and then perhaps we'll see our blessings grow and flourish in our relationships with each other and the depth of our relationship with God. For me, I want to spend more time in prayer, which I hope will make me bolder and more overt in sharing my faith with others. Here's to a great 2023 for all of us.